In today's video, I am going to be breaking down Buddy Hield and how he shoots the basketball. He is a very good three-point shooter, and if you are looking to model your shot around successful three-point shooters, he is definitely a very good player to do so. So let's get down and let's check out his basketball shooting form. Okay, so really quickly, I really want to show you his footwork. It's really good. So when he's coming off of this screen, receiving that inbounds pass, he wants to go straight up for a shot. And something that Buddy Hield really does like to do is he brings that ball up the right side of his body. I know there's a few players who like to bring it up the middle of their body. I personally find I am personally more successful when I bring it up the right side of my body. It keeps my right side in line with the basketball net. But I also really want to point out his feet, and that is they are facing exactly where he wants to shoot. He also kicks down that right foot, and something that's a little bit slightly different from most players is every player who's good will be on their right foot if they're right-handed, will have their heel off the ground. That will help them get up into the air. However, Buddy Hield, in a lot of cases, will have both heels above or over the ground and not touching the ground, which will engage his calves and his Achilles so that he can get up into his shot much faster. Something else as well is his body is pretty well squared towards the basket. He only has a slight lean on his left side. However, that is totally normal because that allows him to get that shooting triangle, which is essentially getting that shoulder and that elbow in line with the basketball net. And that is extremely important if you want to be having a accurate and, of course, consistent shot. Now, something that we do see here is at first, when he is turning into his shot, he has his shoulders over his knees, over his toes. However, when he goes up for his actual shot, he tends to bend his back first, and then he goes up into his shot. He tends to bend his back straight up first and goes up into his shot. Why is this important? A lot of players will shoot with their hips by getting and helping their legs and their hips together at the same time, extending up into their shot. Usually you will see that. However, he gets his body straight up first while his knees are still bent. Then he finally gets off the ground, and we can see that here where he extends his knees actually before he actually even gets off the ground. This is what we call a shooter who is shooting more with his calves than he does with his thighs and lower back. I'm not saying this is wrong, I'm just saying this is different from other shooters. And we have to remember with shooters, they all tend to shoot different. We have to choose what works for us. However, players who tend to extend their back straight up first tend to have a higher probability of jumping straight up into their shot and straight back down instead of jumping forwards or sideways. So this can help you with consistency. If you find that your shot's always long and you're jumping a foot forward, this could help you extending your back first, getting your body straight up, and then using your calves to push you up higher. We see this as well when he goes towards his left side. Here he actually goes left to right into his shot. He's extending his back already, looking at the rim. This is also very important. And here he is a little bit more tilted away. He is a bit farther away from the three-point line as well, and that could be why. Getting his body tilted early, and then again, both his heels are off the ground early. He gets up into his set point. He does tend to have a one-motion shot as well. He does tend to pause the ball over his right eye, and he has a 45-degree angle on his elbow with very little wrist bend and a 90-degree angle on his shoulder. A lot of one-motion shooters will shoot like this. Why is it important for a one-motion shooter to not have his wrist bent at a 90-degree angle? Well, a one-motion shooter, as I was mentioning earlier, how he's using mostly his calves to get up into the air, what's that going to do for him? Well, a one-motion shot will be a quicker release, but also he'll be getting a lot more power from his legs, using that power from his legs, and not using any power really at all with his upper body. Now, of course, he does have a lot of bend to his arm, which means that he is putting a lot of work into that ball, but at the same time, he is not pushing that ball. What he's doing is aiming that ball and having that arm bend like that is just the ability to transfer that energy up into his tricep muscle, which is the muscle on the back of your arm, and then he's able to release that shot nice and soft with a soft release, and that ball has a nice high arc, nice good spin, and of course goes in. If you're a one motion shooter, I would definitely have, in a lot of cases, a lot of elbow bend, because that will allow you to have that softer release with a lack of wrist bend, and that will allow you to transfer that calf power, that calf energy into your triceps and into your shoulder, so that of course you can launch that ball and of course be very successful. Having your elbow above your forehead is ridiculously important if you're a one motion shooter. That's going to give you your arc, and that soft release will give you arc as well. And by not having his wrist fully bent, with a one motion shot, he's able to get a lot of backwards rotation. Now, sometimes with a one motion shot, if you have a 90-degree bend on your wrist, you're going to find that sometimes you'll have a lack of backwards rotation. However, if you're a two motion shooter and you have roughly 90 on the elbow, 90 on the shoulder, and you have 90 on the wrist, that will give you rotation on the ball if you are a two motion shooter. If you're a one motion, you generally want to get most of your power coming from your tricep, technically your elbow, also your shoulder and your calves. And we can see that he is lined up pretty well. That side of the ball is over his shoulder, and because of that, that is going to allow him to have that shooting triangle I always talk about. Now, from this angle, we can sort of see that it does tend to have a middle finger and maybe a slightly ring finger release, because that ball has his hand more towards that right side from at least the angles that I've seen, which means that because that ball is not totally over top of his shoulder, only that right side of that ball is really over top of that shoulder, that upper arm, that tells me that he has more success, we can see it right there, by having it come off the right side of his middle finger, or it could be his middle finger as well. Now, at this point in time, you have essentially 4 fingers on your hand that would touch the ball last, this being your middle finger. That's going to be the longest. There's 3 different types of releases. There's a middle finger only, there's a ring and middle finger, and then there's a pointer and middle finger. Generally speaking, you want it to come off your middle finger because it's the longest. However, depending on how the ball sits when it's up into its set point, you may want to experiment with a combination of either pointer and ring, or ring and, of course, middle finger. Or pointer and middle and ring. You want to have a combination of those 3, test them out, see which one works better for you. I hope that this video has helped you. If it has, hit that like button and subscribe. I hope that you've enjoyed my drawings, and if you have, of course, I'll see you guys in my next video. I'll see you guys again next time.